Following U.S. President Donald Trump's declaration of Nigeria as a country of particular concern for alleged religious persecution, while also warning that the United States could suspend aid and take military action if attacks on Christians continue, President Bola Tinubu has rejected the claim and has planned a meeting with the U.S. President, stating that Nigeria is committed to protecting citizens of every faith and does not tolerate religiously motivated violence. Nigeria is currently grappling with violent conflict across religious and ethnic lines, which analysts say has claimed lives on both Christian and Muslim sides. However, some observers insist this has mostly been targeted at Christians. Well,
fortunately, while the United States has carried out military interventions in African countries such as Somalia, Niger, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, those operations were conducted in support of counterterrorism efforts. However, in this instance, the U.S. is threatening a unilateral attack on an African country on the grounds of human rights violations. Joining us to discuss the implications of these developments is APC Chieftain and former presidential aspirant in the 2019 and 2023 elections, Adamu Garba. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Also joining us is the former director of the Department of State Services, DSS, Dennis Amachree. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
All right. Mr. Adamu, let's begin with you. Most U.S. actions in Africa have been counterterrorism, training, support, or air remote strikes, where the U.S. is mostly supporting a host country's military. But in this case, President Trump is threatening a unilateral military action. What would you say are the implications of Trump's declaration? What would a U.S. military action mean for Nigeria? I think that question will go for the both of you, but I'll start with you, Mr. Garba.
Thank you for the question. I do not think that there could be a military action that the U.S. will now put boots on the ground or start shooting Nigerians simply because there is alleged genocide against some Christian population. The most basic challenge that make United States, especially President Donald Trump, took this action has to do with the precedence of their investigation. There are some delegations from Nigeria that went to make a report about the genocide against Christian population in Nigeria. And the U.S. nominated some delegates from their Congress to come for fact-finding mission. I think they were even in Nigeria 3 times. So they were able to discover these issues, filed a complaint, and submitted it officially, to which you now have a bill being sponsored by Senator Ted Cruz, requesting specific action to be taken as a consequence of listing Nigeria as a country of particular concern. So this is likely what is happening. So when you look at the build-up, when a country is listed as a country of particular concern, several actions are within the U.S. basket to take, most of which has to do with sanctions, some punishment, or targeted visa restriction against some of these individuals that are responsible for perpetuating this crime. Now, when you look at the precedent of that is built within the allegations that is pushing for this genocide, there is an allegation of blasphemy, you know, that when there is a blasphemy law in some of the 12 Sharia states, and there are some also governors and there are some scholars that are responsible for still encouraging a clear polarizing programs that clearly segregate between the Christian and the Muslim population, where Christians are minorities. So these are the issues. And the action that the U.S. is taking does not mean that they are coming to Nigeria to protect the Christians and start bombing the Muslims. No. The reason why it was tagged as Christian genocide is because it's the Christian population, that the Christian delegation that went and reported the crime. So should Muslims also go and report this crime, we should expect the United States to say perhaps maybe Muslim and the Christian genocide, because the whole target is against this militant terrorist organization that have been killing Nigerians for the past 16 years. And it seems that there is an inability on the Nigerian side to be able to nip this in the bud. And again, when you look at the political implication of the killings, there are some political actors that to some degree find business opportunity around these killings. So certain political will to nip this in the bud is also not being implemented. So many budgetary allocations was being made to the military and to the security services to address these things, but some of these monies find their way in private pockets. In fact, there are so many reports that some soldiers even came online to report that they don't have enough ammunition to confront these bandits and terrorists. So these are the issues that become a concern to the US, and that is why I believe these actions is taking place. So I don't foresee any bombing coming from the US, but then they will take very restrictive action against Nigerians. But should Nigeria continue confrontational stand and intransigence, denying actively that genocide is taking place, then perhaps maybe they may consider military action. But as it stands now, I think the issue is being discussed. We may likely see a soft landing going forward.
Soft landing. We're certain that soft landing will definitely come from what will be agreed between Nigeria's president and that of the United States. But let me come to you, Mr. Amachree. First off, I'm sure you saw that tweet. There's one question that comes to mind. If I don't know if we could put up that tweet of President Donald Trump. In that tweet, he made it clear that he's going to take action. But I want us to focus on the last line. There's a place in the last line where he did say in one of his tweets, in other words, he gave Nigeria, the president, time. And yeah, that's it. It said, warning, the Nigerian government better move fast. As a security professional, analyst, and so on, what does that mean when you get that kind of statement that you need to move fast? And what time does President Bola Tinubu have that will show that he needs to really move fast? What does it mean?
Thank you very much. I think what you are even showing is what he is saying. What Trump is saying is that if they attack, it will be fast and sweet or something like that. You know, not that our president should move fast. But at the same time, the president is actually moving fast. Because I think it's a wake-up call for our government to do something about this lingering problem. And actually, it is not that the American president is going to come into Nigeria with gun blazing. That means just killing people or bombing people. I think the target is the bandits and the terrorists that have been disturbing Nigeria for so long. You know, so if he's going to, if they want to attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet. Well, you know how the American president talks, you know, but what it really actually means is that it is high time for us to take care of this problem. It's been on for almost 16 years, and we have not been able to clear it out. Now, let's come to the nitty-gritty. It is not that about Christian, Muslim, we know that. Even Muslims have been killed. But this particular problem, and which is also aligning with the national objective or national interest of the United States, is that they are going to fight terrorism anywhere in the world, wherever it exists. That's one of the American national interests. So with this thing lingering, and then of course people reporting or complaining about it, makes it very, very necessary at this time that they will wake up the Nigerian government. Because you see, it's not that we cannot get these people out. These are foreign bandits that are really causing the major problem. And I think we tend to mix it with politics, mixing politics with security and all kinds of things, having meetings with bandits, carrying guns and ammunition, you know. I think it shows that we're either playing kid's glove with these guys, or there is some kind of collusion, you know. Of course, right from when President Jonathan was there, people in government have been involved in this particular situation. So I think this is a wake-up call, and if we go down to Washington, or we send a diplomatic mission there, I think that's what even your last guest was discussing with you. We don't have an ambassador in Washington. And I don't know why we don't do that. The excuse of no funds, I don't think is an excuse. You know, now that these things are happening, I think a lot of things are going to happen to take care of all these loopholes that we've managed over the years.
All right, Mr. Amachree, from what I hear you say, it's not that the government does not have the capacity to fight terrorism. It's maybe that they're lacking in political will. And I want us to expand further on that when we come back from this break. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're still looking at the alleged, possibility of President Trump's threat of intervening in Nigeria's insecurity challenges. We're joined by Dennis Amachree and Adamu Garba. We've had an extensive conversation which we hope to flesh even further. Before we went on the break, we're speaking to Mr. Amachree, and you were talking about how the government has the potential to actually kick out these insurgents. You mentioned one, that they are foreign insurgents, they're foreigners, and then you also mentioned that there is, in your explanation, I summarized it to say that we're lacking in political will. Can you maybe expand further on that? How much information we have to guarantee us that these insurgents are not Nigerians, if there's any foreign intervention, and what actions have taken place that show that we're really lacking in political will?
Thank you very much for that. It's very clear, we've had public statements from one Baraje. We have public statements even from El-Rufai, who is a former governor of Kaduna State, about these bandits. So that is not a secret anymore. And then, of course, when we look at go to the Northeast, we find out that Operation Safe Haven, I've never believed in it, because that de-radicalization program shows that we're really not serious. How can we, go ahead and be dealing with terrorists, and then we claim to de-radicalize them, give them uniform, and well, some people claim that they were reintegrated into the Nigerian army. I don't really believe that, but we have reintegrated a lot of people, and then, of course, forgive them. The United States, when in their war in Afghanistan, captured some terrorists. And till today, as I speak to you, in Guantanamo Bay, some of them are still locked up there. So why are we trying to do this kid's glove? If they come, they kill people, they come, they say, oh, I surrender, and then we now give them clothes, welcome them, give them food, and then they go back, looking at the people that they've even burnt their houses, and some of them have been reported to go back, to Boko Haram. And all these bandits, it shows that, why can't they get out of Nigeria? If they are foreigners that were brought in here, and of course we don't need them anymore, they should be sent out. And the Nigerian army is well equipped to clear them out of all those ungoverned spaces. That means we know where they are. They are in the ungoverned spaces, and we should get them out. Okay. We don't need a foreign power to come and tell us that, hey, you have to do this. But I'm happy that right now, as the way it is now, we are going to, take some action. We are going to take some action, and our government will address it properly.
Thank you so much, Mr. Amachree. They call it non-kinetic means and carrot and stick approach. And you're of the opinion that, we need to deal with this decisively. There should be consequences for their actions. That brings me to Mr. Adamu. My question to you is, how serious should Nigeria take President Trump's potential threat of a possible U.S. military intervention? Is it just rhetoric or potential security concern Is it just rhetoric? Because you're looking at a very unconventional presidency in Donald Trump, and his sort of diplomacy is he's skilled in the art of deal making. He makes this quid pro quo deals, and also if people think he's going to respect UN Charter and all of that, people might actually laugh at you and say, I mean, just take a look at what's happening in Venezuela since September. Over 61 people allegedly trafficking narcotics, which would, on boats, have been extrajudicially killed. The United Nations calls it a violation of human rights. So how serious should we take this threat, Mr. Adamu?
Thank you for the question. You see, Donald Trump is not like normal conventional United States president. He rules more with his instinct than with the books. And that if you look at generally the situation that they are facing in their home country, the US, currently over 42 million people have applied for food aid. The entire government has been shut down, for a long period of time. A whole lot of challenges is happening, and due to the Gaza crisis, the Palestinian-Israeli crisis that led to some massacre in Gaza, they lost significant part of their evangelical Christian support at home. So this action in Nigeria is seeming to revive and recover this lost political base so that they can continue to sustain the political legitimacy and the currency to push for their MAGA agenda. So we have to look at it from that side. The second thing again is you look at the new policies of Nigerian government, a gradual shift towards a kind of an independent economic model. Just recently, US became the largest exporter of crude oil. Then you now have Nigeria imposing 15% tax on imports of oil in Nigeria. Now you have Dangote planning to expand his own refinery to 1.4 million barrels of refining. And then you now have the same Dangote saying that if you have dollars, go and sell it because dollar is going to crash. As at yesterday, dollar has crashed, from 1,495 to 1,421. So, and the US grand policy is to protect the interest of the dollar because that is the guarantor of their power. So anybody that tramples upon dollar is directly training the existence and the supremacy and hegemony of the United States. So because of this, all actions must be taken to push these policymakers to the table for proper negotiation. So in as much as it serves his political interest at home by saying he is protecting the Christians all over the world, including specifically in Nigeria abroad, it also serves their own US grand strategy. So we have to look at this. So despite all the hullabaloo and the challenges and the rhetoric, once they sit on the table, I believe some negotiation can be stricken. But at the same time, President Trump is unpredictable. He may choose to strike, as he said, because if that strike is going to give him this political legitimacy, he will do that. And again, as Mr. Amachree even mentioned, over a long period of time, we have consistently did not take necessary action to destroy and stop these criminal elements from terrorizing our people. Although this issue is not peculiar to Nigeria, it's Africa, because in the whole of Africa we have over 50 plus active armed conflict. And this armed conflict is leveraging on large young population that are all out of job. And when you look at the underlying root cause that is pushing for these things is usually lack of proper administration of the justice system. And I believe that is why you see some policies were created to allow non-kinetic approach, safe haven, safe corridor programs by the military and the state services so that you can have some conciliatory measures. But again, still, bandits keep expanding, terrorism keeps expanding from the northeast to the north central to the northwest, and it's even threatening to go to the south. So therefore, if this continues this way, I believe he might strike, but the chances of him striking to me is far less than the chances of him negotiating a better deal for America and also a better deal for his politics. So when we sit on the table. So it all depends on how Nigeria organizes itself. And one of the major mistakes was lack of ambassadors. Because if we have ambassadors since February this year, this issue started. The ambassadors will have been notified that this is what is happening. Memos will have gone back and forth, and issues could not escalate to the point whereby Nigeria will be designated as a country of particular concern. But because we don't have ambassadors, some of these countries will see this as a direct rebutter to their relationship program with our country. And this is also, this has compounded and contributed to this situation. So he might take action, but I believe the chances of him negotiating a better deal will be much more higher than the chances of him taking any preemptive action against Nigeria.
Okay. Then again, Mr. Adamu, you've highlighted some very, very key issues that Nigerians have also been worried about. One, the lack of ambassadors, which could have been able to douse this tension up until now. I want to ask a question. Let me see if I can go to Mr. Amachree. First off, aside from the ambassadors that we do not have, there are also conversations as regards the way forward from now. Quickly, the SA to the president did put out a statement very quickly, claiming that the president will be jetting off to meet with Donald Trump. But of course, there's an update to that story. He's going to be meeting with a VP, and they will be discussing the issues and so on. In your lifetime with the DSS, while you're working very actively, do you think putting out a press statement very quickly is a way to solve this issue, or taking time to gather the entire facts and then analyzing it, or possibly even speaking to Nigerians in a broadcast would have been better? What's your take?
Thank you very much. You see, when you encounter things like this, there are many ways of handling them. You know, sometimes you can keep quiet, which is very dangerous. And then another time, of course, in situations like this, we expect the president to even address the country, you know, because these are the elements that are, you know, the foreign power is saying that they are coming to help some Nigerians. You know, our own president should address us and tell us, you know, what exactly is going and what's going on and what he plans to do. And then, of course, meeting with President Trump or the vice president, I think we have to be very, very careful in doing that. You know, like even Garba mentioned here that we are dealing with a very, very unpredictable person. And I think many of you saw what happens to Zelensky when he went down there, the Ukrainian president, you know, even Ramaphosa of South Africa. So we have to be ready with our facts. Get ready with our facts, because apparently they also have their facts. Like it was said, some people came from the United States many times to gather all this data, which they went and then give out there. So if we are going, we should gather the facts, our own facts. And like I said, let the Nigerian government not, you know, assume that it is against them. It is against the terrorists. And then the direction, or the direction of what we are going to do is, oh, okay, let us even collaborate to get these terrorists out, because we've been fighting them for so many years and we cannot get them out. So let's go ahead and collaborate. And collaboration will get them out in no time, because the United States government special forces had cooperated with our Nigerian DSS in getting out a kidnapped U.S. citizen before, who was kidnapped from Niger Republic. So it is not a new thing. We can still cooperate, collaborate and do a lot of things. But let's not just jump into it and then go there with a guilt feeling that maybe we've done something wrong. Yes, we need to have that political will. And that is very, very important to do it. And if we need collaboration or cooperation from the United States, yes, they will cooperate with us. Because if they say that Christians are being killed, or even Muslims are being killed, terrorists are the ones killing, not the Nigerian government. And if terrorists are killing, we want to cooperate with them and then deal with these terrorists. And that can be done.
To Adamu Garba. You talked about cooperation, but students of history will look at our relationship with the United States and what's happened in the past. Dan, you've also suggested that we should do away with all non-kinetic and carrot and stick approach, and we should deal with the issue of terrorism decisively. But damned if we do, damned if we don't. And I'm saying this because of precedent in history. Towards the tail end of the Goodluck Jonathan administration, Nigeria requested to buy a Super Tucano jet from the United States of America under President Barack Obama. That request was turned down, citing the Leahy laws, saying that, you know, we have dubious human rights records and they would not sell us lethal arms. I mean, when you look at what Israel has been doing in Gaza, you begin to ask questions. Having said that, and knowing that history, what's the guarantee that we would get a fine end of this deal without trading, you know, our sovereignty and territorial integrity, knowing that we're dealing with a very transactional president in Donald Trump?
It is a very, very tough one because Nigeria even signed agreement for the same procurement of some of the hardware, you know, for operations, about $346 million currently ongoing, and that most of our service chiefs, especially the newly promoted service chiefs, when you look at their profile, they are mostly US trained in their tactical, focal, and all the strategic operations. So they are US trained, meaning without US weapons, you know, most of the operations is going to be technically handicapped. And now that we are listed as a country of particular concern, these kind of sanctions, including the Leahy laws, could be deployed to deny us access to weaponry. And that is why, as Mr. Amachree said, our president needs to be very prepared for the meeting, should the meeting take place between him, especially with J.D. Vance. Because J.D. Vance is a militant part of MAGA. Whenever they want to dehumanize somebody, they usually put J.D. Vance in front. When they wanted to dehumanize European leaders, it was J.D. Vance that Trump sent to go and represent him in Paris. Similarly, when they want to attack these guys that are doing these so-called climate change issues, it was J.D. Vance that went and scattered them. When Zelensky visited, it was the same J.D. Vance that confronted him in the Oval Office. So the president must be very, very, very prepared. Very, 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 very prepared, because this negotiation that is going to take place is going to make or mar this relationship, considering the fact that it was acknowledged that the president and his team have been, you know, aligned with the Democrats. And, you know, when you look at the MAGA, they are most, to some degree, almost extremists when it comes to their belief in their own philosophy and ideology. So all those things need to be put in the basket, and proper preparation need to be done. And as Mr. Amachree mentioned earlier, that we have to see it at the point of cooperation to destroy the terrorists. Since their target is to attack the militant terrorist organization, and we also have interest in doing so, then we must have to work around to find a common ground. But should we do anything that will attract the US boots on the ground in Nigeria, then I believe it's going to be a very, very, very tough call for this country. And this is something we must do all we can to make sure that it doesn't happen at all. So therefore, we must negotiate properly. We must be able to extract deals, and the president must be prepared. He has to be prepared properly, because it's not going to be an easy ride, and that and it's going to make Omar the deal for procurement of this $346 million worth of weapons that we are buying. because the US decided to say that these weapons are going to be disproportionately used against the same civilians they want to protect in Nigeria according to their belief, then the likelihood that they will let these weapons be in Nigerian hands is going to be difficult, and then we may have a Jonathan situation once again.
Mr. Amachree, let's now, my final question to you would be, what we have seen, unfortunately, would be that this recent announcement by President Trump has been celebrated in some quarters in Nigeria. And it's telling to an extent about how a number of people feel like this needs to have been treated like yesterday. And we need to move past the conversation of insecurity, because it has a ripple effect in other areas, foreign direct investment, and just basically the state of the economy. So what I'd like to ask would be, what do you think the government needs to do immediately to sort of calm down the fears of Nigerians and let them know that, look, insecurity is priority to us? And secondly, how important is it to list the financiers of terrorism? Our previous guest, I'm sure you were watching when I asked him the question, and you saw the way he responded to it. How important is it for the people behind terrorism financing in Nigeria to be listed publicly?
Okay, sometimes government overlooks certain things that are detrimental to itself. If they come out to talk about certain things, I think people will understand. It's not a secret cult. It's not something that, you're hiding from some people or stuff like that. What we need is a political will. The political will to face these things. All of us will have to agree that, look, these terrorists are disturbing us economically, and this and that and that and that. And we will all agree that we have to eliminate them. Take the example of the Niger Delta, where the militancy was very, very high. 2006, and of course it was telling on the economic status of Nigeria. The oil production dropped from 1.3 million barrels a day to 600,000 barrels a day. And the government have to look at it and say, look, what is the problem here? And they had talks with the militants, and then of course it was agreed, they had the amnesty, and we moved on. Now, of course, some people have come to say, why don't we have amnesty or talks with the bandits? Bandits are criminals. These are foreign criminals that came into Nigeria. Now, are we going to accommodate them? That means we're opening our borders to, illegal aliens. Or are we going to tell them to go back? Attempts have been made before of getting rid of them. So we have to be very, very serious, and of course know exactly what we want to do with it. Forget about all the politicization of this security issue, because government should come out and shame people. If it is against our national interest that all these terrorists are there and there are people sponsoring them, there is a list, why don't you mention that list and shame them? If we continue covering them and, stuff like that, many people will start to think that, maybe the government is complicit. So these are issues that I think government have to go into that Federal Executive Council, sit down and really discuss honestly in how to deal with this. We can do it. It is not rocket science.
Man, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We look forward to having you again. And we, of course, will continue to expand this conversation further with several other guests. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, gentlemen.